She left her phone unlocked. That was her first mistake. Not that I was looking. I wasn't. I swear on what's left of my dignity. I was just plugging it in because she always forgets to charge the thing, and it buzzed in my hand. One text. From a number not saved. Last night was everything. I still smell you on me. I stood there, frozen in the hallway, holding her phone like it was a bomb. My mind didn't want to believe it. Not even a little. I told myself it was probably a spam message or a prank. But then I scrolled up. Oh God. I shouldn't have scrolled up. They weren't just texting. They had nicknames. Inside jokes. Talked about things she never mentioned to me. I read stuff I can't unsee. Plans, secrets, pictures. One of them was taken in our living room. That photo broke me more than anything else. The throw blanket I bought for her birthday was tossed on the couch, and she was lying there in it, with him. And it all happened 3 nights ago. The night she told me she was out with Morgan from work. The same Morgan who I ran into at the gas station that evening. Alone. Buying wine. That night was a lie. All of it. I didn't say anything right away. I didn't scream or smash her phone. I just went to the bathroom and threw up. Then I stared at myself in the mirror and saw a man who looked like he hadn't slept in a year. Maybe I hadn't. Not really. She came home around noon that day. Cheerful. Humming. Tossed her purse on the table and said, I think I'm going to take a drive tomorrow. Just need to clear my head. I didn't even ask where. I just nodded. Like the idiot I was. I spent that whole night awake, watching her sleep beside me like nothing was wrong. She didn't even notice I was quiet. She kissed my forehead in the morning, called me Han, and walked out the door with her yoga bag. She didn't go to yoga. I tracked her phone. 4 hours at a Comfort Inn off the highway. 36 miles from home. And then, nothing. She turned off location sharing. That was her second mistake. Because while she was gone, I was making decisions. Big ones. By the time the sun went down, I had emptied my drawer, cleared my half of the closet, deleted myself from every streaming service account, taken my name off the lease, left a letter taped to the fridge, and scheduled a pickup for the one thing she cared about more than me, her precious custom coffee machine, which, surprise, was on my card. I wasn't emotional. I wasn't angry. I was hollow. When she walked in 24 hours later, the house looked the same. Until she noticed the silence. Until she walked into the bedroom and saw half the hangers missing. Until she found the fridge letter, with one line written in my shaky hand. Enjoy your freedom. She called me 37 times that night. She's still calling. But I'm not coming back. And she has no idea what else I know. The first night I slept away from that house, I didn't sleep at all. I lay on a cheap mattress that smelled like old detergent and regret, staring at the ceiling while my phone vibrated itself to death on the nightstand. Her name kept flashing on the screen like an alarm I refused to shut off. I didn't block her. I wanted to see it. I wanted proof that she finally noticed I was gone. At 2:14 a.m., the call stopped. A minute later, a text came through. Please stop. I'm scared. Where are you? That word, scared, almost made me laugh. Almost. Because just 12 hours earlier, she wasn't scared at all. She was bold enough to turn off her location, bold enough to lie straight to my face, bold enough to believe I would still be there when she came back. She had been so sure of me, of my patience, of my weakness. She didn't know that while she was gone, something ugly and quiet had woken up inside me. Before I left the house, I hadn't just packed my clothes. I'd sat at the dining table for nearly 3 hours, scrolling through everything she thought she'd hidden. Deleted messages don't disappear when someone doesn't know how backups work. I read conversations that went back months. Months of jokes about how clingy I was. Months of complaints about how I was emotionally exhausting. Months of promises she made to someone else about a future she still pretended to plan with me. What shocked me most wasn't the cheating. It was how casual it all sounded. Like I was an inconvenience. A piece of furniture she meant to replace eventually. One message burned itself into my brain. She had written it just a week ago, after I asked her if we were okay. He's safe. He's not going anywhere. I guess she was half right. By morning, she was in full panic mode. Voicemails started coming in, her voice cracking more with each one. She swung between anger and pleading so fast it gave me whiplash. One minute she was accusing me of being dramatic and cruel. The next she was sobbing, asking how I could do this to her without a conversation. That part hurt more than it should have. The idea that she thought I owed her one last discussion. As if she hadn't been having discussions behind my back for months. As if silence wasn't the most honest response I had left. Around noon, a new number called me. I didn't answer, but they left a voicemail. It was her sister. She sounded confused, nervous, trying to sound neutral but failing. She said Delaney had shown up at her place crying, saying I'd disappeared, and that she didn't understand why. That word again. Disappeared. Like I was a magic trick gone wrong, not a husband who finally chose himself. I deleted the voicemail and powered my phone off. For a few hours, I let myself imagine what was happening back home. I pictured her pacing through the rooms, opening drawers, checking closets, realizing just how much of me had quietly vanished. I imagined her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty side like it had personally betrayed her. That image didn't bring me peace, but it brought me something close to it. Late that evening, I finally turned my phone back on. There was a new message waiting. Not from her. From the same unsaved number I'd seen before. I think she didn't tell you everything. You deserve to know the rest. I stared at the screen for a long time. My chest felt tight, like my heart was bracing for another collapse. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room. Another part, the part that had been ignored for years, needed to know. I typed back a single word. What? The reply came instantly. And what it said made me realize leaving wasn't just the right choice. It might have been the only thing that saved me. The message read, check the black shoebox in your garage, behind the water heater. That was it. No name, no follow-up, just that single line. For the next minute, I sat motionless on the edge of the motel bed, trying to decide if I was being manipulated or warned. It felt like one of those movie scenes where the clueless guy opens the wrong drawer and ends up unraveling the whole truth. And maybe I should have left it alone. Maybe I'd already seen enough. But curiosity has a way of rotting whatever's left of your peace. I drove back to the house. Not up to the driveway, just parked 3 doors down and walked the rest on foot, hood up, head down, praying she wasn't home. It was nearly midnight. All the lights were off except for one, the hallway light upstairs. She was probably sleeping, or crying, or plotting. I didn't care. I just needed to get in and out without being noticed. I still had my old key. The garage door creaked louder than I remembered. Every sound felt exaggerated, like the universe wanted to see if I'd break under pressure. I slipped inside and stepped over the stacked boxes of Christmas junk and dead tools until I reached the water heater. I never remembered putting anything back there. But sure enough, wedged behind the rusted pipes, there was a black shoebox, dusty, untouched, forgotten. I pulled it out and placed it on the workbench. My hands were already sweating, and I hadn't even opened it yet. Inside was a mess of things that didn't belong together. A burner phone, a wrinkled envelope full of receipts, a red lipstick I'd never seen her wear, and a small, sealed manila envelope with my name scribbled on it in blue pen. My heart started pounding before I even opened it. Inside were photos, printed photos, at least 20 of them, each one worse than the last. Delaney in a car I didn't recognize, kissing a man I'd never seen. Delaney in the elevator of what looked like an office building, her hand in his back pocket. Delaney in our backyard, laughing, in a robe I had bought her, with him holding a cup of coffee and the newspaper I subscribed to. They were snapshots from different days, different angles. Someone had been watching her for a long time, and they'd been watching him too. And apparently, they'd been watching me. Because the last photo in the stack was of me and Delaney at a grocery store 2 months ago, laughing about something in the frozen food aisle. Except we weren't alone. In the far background, a man with a camera phone stood perfectly still, pointing right at us. I stumbled back and knocked over a broom. It clattered to the floor, and I froze, waiting for the whole house to come alive. Nothing happened. I shoved the pictures back in the box, grabbed the burner phone, and slipped out the side door without ever looking up at the window. I didn't breathe properly until I was back in the car, half convinced I was losing my mind. Back at the motel, I powered on the burner. No password. Only one contact saved, M. I stared at it for almost 10 minutes before I hit call. The phone rang once, then twice. Then someone picked up and whispered, "So now you know." I didn't speak. I couldn't. They continued, "He's not who she told you he was. And neither is she." Then the line went dead, and my phone, my real phone, started ringing again. It was her, Delaney, calling at 1:36 a.m., just 2 hours after I'd stood in my own garage and realized I knew nothing about the woman I married. I didn't answer. Because suddenly, I had a bigger problem. I didn't leave Delaney to punish her. I left because someone else knew everything, maybe more than me, and they wanted me to act before she did. I didn't go back to the motel after that. Something about knowing she was calling while I was holding proof of her double life made the walls feel too thin, like she could somehow sense where I was. So I drove. No destination. Just highway lines and radio static, and my thoughts crashing into each other. By sunrise, I was parked behind a 24-hour diner I'd never been to before, watching steam rise from a dumpster and trying to steady my breathing. I kept replaying the photos in my head. The way she smiled in them. Not the polite, tired smile she gave me at home, but the loose, unguarded one she used to have years ago. The one I hadn't seen in a long time. I finally turned my phone back on. Dozens of messages. Missed calls. Voicemails stacked on top of each other like a panic attack with timestamps. I didn't listen to them. I didn't need to. I already knew the pattern. First confusion, then anger, then desperation. She'd cycle through all three until something worked. It always had. But then there was one message that didn't fit. It wasn't from her. It was from an email address I didn't recognize, sent at 6:02 a.m. with no subject line. The body had just one sentence. She thinks you ran because you found out about him. She doesn't know you were never supposed to. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Never supposed to? My hands started shaking again. I replied, asking who this was and what they wanted from me. The response came almost immediately, like they'd been waiting. My name is Marrow. I used to know your wife. Better than she ever told you. That name hit me in a strange way. It wasn't common. It felt heavy. Intentional. Like someone who didn't care if you remembered it, only that you took it seriously. Marrow wrote again before I could respond. She didn't just cheat. She rehearsed. She practiced on other lives before she tried it on yours. I wanted to stop reading. I wanted to throw the phone into the dumpster and pretend none of this existed. But instead, I asked the one question that had been burning a hole in my chest since the night before. Why tell me now? There was a pause, long enough for me to imagine 100 terrible answers. Then, because she thinks she's lost you. And when she thinks that, she gets reckless. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It wasn't even just about me. There was a version of Delaney I'd never met. One that existed before our marriage and apparently never really left. A version that people remembered. A version that left damage behind. I finally listened to one of her voicemails. Her voice was hoarse, unsteady. She kept saying my name like it was a lifeline. She swore she could explain everything. She promised nothing physical had happened, which was almost impressive considering the evidence sitting in my glove compartment. She said the words misunderstanding and stress and please come home, like they still meant something. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. I talked to him. He said you overreacted. He said you'd calm down. Him. Not panicked. Not angry. Confident. Like someone who believed he still had control. I deleted the voicemail and stared out at the rising sun, realizing something important. She wasn't chasing me because she loved me. She was chasing me because I disrupted the order of things. Because I stepped out of a role she'd assigned me without asking permission. Marrow sent one last message that morning. If you go back now, she'll rewrite the story. If you stay gone, she'll show you who she really is. I didn't respond. I started the engine. Because for the first time in my life, disappearing didn't feel like running away. It felt like stepping out of a trap. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't sit still. Every time I stopped the car, I'd hear her voice in my head. Sweet, fake, frantic. Every voicemail sounded more like performance art than pain. And every time I heard the phrase, just let me explain, I felt a little more convinced she didn't regret what she did. She just regretted getting caught. Around noon, I stopped at a library 2 towns over, not because I wanted to read or think, but because it was quiet and anonymous. I found a corner table near a dusty row of forgotten encyclopedias and pulled out the burner phone. There were no new messages from Marrow. Part of me was relieved. The other part wanted answers so badly it was eating through my ribs like acid. I opened the folder of photos again. This time, I zoomed in on the man. His face was mostly turned away, but there was one shot. One where he'd glanced toward the camera mid-laugh. That smile. It bothered me. Too confident. Too familiar. And then it clicked. Not who he was. Where I'd seen him. There was a framed photo on Delaney's desk. One I'd stopped noticing years ago. A company party. Her team. all of them holding champagne flutes and pretending to be happier than they were. He was in the back row, hand on her shoulder. Not in an obvious way, just enough to mean something if you were looking. And I hadn't been. Now that I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. His name came back to me. Chase. Or Chase something. He worked in the same department, supposedly married, supposedly safe. She'd mentioned him maybe twice, always with a shrug, like he was background noise. I looked him up. His LinkedIn profile was public. So was his wife's. And that's when I knew Delaney wasn't the only one playing games. His wife's profile banner was a photo of her and Chase at the beach, taken just last month. But there was something odd about the image. I zoomed in, and there it was again. That same robe. The one from the photos in our backyard. Only now, it was hanging off his wife's arm. I stared at the screen, feeling my throat tighten. This wasn't just an affair. This was something more complicated, more layered. And somehow, they were all pretending like no one saw anything. I thought about calling his wife, reaching out, sending the pictures. For a split second, I imagined us teaming up, exposing them, confronting them together. But then I heard Merrow's voice in my head. She gets reckless when she thinks she's lost you. So I didn't call her. I called someone else. I called the only person Delaney ever genuinely feared, her father. We never got along. Not because of anything obvious. He just saw through people. Saw through her, too. But he never said it out loud. Just gave me these long, disappointed looks, like I was too blind to notice the fire behind the glass. He picked up on the second ring. Fletcher? I need you to tell me something, I said. My voice shook. Did you ever warn me about her? He was quiet for a long time. Then, with a sigh that sounded like the beginning of an avalanche, he said, No, but I should have. I told him everything. The photos, the messages, the hotel, the name Chase, the box in the garage, the emails, even Merrow. He didn't interrupt. He didn't gasp or say, I'm so sorry. He just listened like he'd already guessed most of it. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. She did this before. My chest tightened. What? Before you. Before the move. Before the ring. There was another man. She doesn't know I knew, but I did. He left, too. Quietly. Just like you. And after he was gone, she did something reckless. Something I never told her mother. I asked what happened. He refused to say over the phone. Come see me, he said. You need to know the whole story. I hung up and sat there in the library, surrounded by books that couldn't help me, thinking about how far back the rot went. How deep. How long she'd been playing innocent with a loaded hand behind her back. I thought I was the first man she betrayed. Turns out, I might just be the latest in a line of ghosts. Delaney's father lived 4 hours away in a coastal town that felt like it had been forgotten by time. The kind of place with peeling paint on the welcome signs and diners that still used paper menus. I hadn't seen him in over a year. He didn't come to Thanksgiving, didn't send birthday texts, never called. He wasn't exactly warm, but he was honest. Brutally so. And now I needed that. The drive was quiet except for the occasional ping from my phone. I didn't check the notifications. I didn't need to. I already knew they were from her. She had no idea where I was going. But somehow I think he did. When I pulled up, he was already on the porch, sitting in that same weather-beaten chair he always sat in when he needed to say something difficult. He didn't wave, just tilted his head toward the front door and said, Coffee's fresh. Come in. We didn't speak much until we were seated at his small kitchen table. There were no photos on the fridge, no evidence of family, just silence and the sound of the coffee maker hissing behind him. She was 16 when it started, he said flatly. It wasn't what you think. It was about control, not love. I saw it in her even back then. This need to orchestrate every emotion around her, like life was a stage, and she was the only one who knew the lines. I didn't interrupt. I couldn't. My mouth was dry, and my pulse was thudding so hard in my ears it felt like a second heartbeat. There was a boy. Older. College-aged. She made him fall for her. And then she flipped it on him. Turned cold. Told him she'd never loved him. A week later, she showed up at school with a black eye and told the principal he hit her. I blinked. Did he? Her father shook his head. No. I knew the boy. Quiet. Soft-spoken. He was already packing for school when the cops showed up. His scholarship got pulled. His family moved 3 states away within the month. That was the first time I saw what she was capable of. I wanted to say it wasn't the same. That she was different now. That maybe people change. But my mind kept going back to the voice message she left me just yesterday. The one where she said, He said you'd calm down. That wasn't a woman who was sorry. That was a woman setting the stage. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, barely above a whisper. He looked at me, finally, and for the first time since I'd known him, there was something like guilt in his eyes. Because the last man she fooled disappeared completely. She told people he moved, said he got a job overseas. But he never posted again, never resurfaced. No one's heard from him in 5 years. My stomach dropped. You think she? I don't know, he said, and the words chilled the room. But I've always been afraid to ask. I sat back, suddenly aware of how deep I was in something I never understood. Delaney wasn't just unfaithful. She was a shapeshifter. She became what people needed until they let their guard down. Then she rewrote the story to suit her next performance. She's coming apart at the seams, he continued. She's not used to losing control. That's when she lashes out. When she gets cruel. He handed me a folded piece of paper. A phone number, scribbled in red ink. No name. Call this woman, he said. She used to be her closest friend. Until she saw too much. I took it, my hand trembling. She won't answer at first, he warned. But once she knows who you are, she will. I drove to a gas station before calling. I sat in the parked car for nearly 15 minutes, staring at the number. Wondering if I really wanted to peel back another layer. Wondering if I'd already gone too far to stop. When I called, it rang 5 times before it cut to voicemail. I didn't leave one. But 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from the number. I told myself I wouldn't get involved again. But if you've made it this far, you deserve to hear the truth. She ruined more than just lives. She destroyed evidence. I stared at the message, my hands cold, my mind spinning. Destroyed evidence? Of what? Of who? And then another message came. She knows you're talking to people. She's watching your accounts. You need to move. Tonight. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a fallout from infidelity. This was damage control. And I was now the loose end she hadn't planned for. I didn't go back to the motel. I didn't even return to the same highway I came in on. I pulled off at a random exit, parked behind a shuttered mechanic shop, and just sat there, breathing through the panic. She was watching my accounts? That meant she knew I wasn't far. That meant the burner phone hadn't been enough. That meant someone, somehow, was still feeding her information, or she was smarter than I'd ever given her credit for. I opened the text again. The phrase "she destroyed evidence" echoed in my head. Evidence of what? Her affairs? Her manipulation? Or something worse? I replied, "What kind of evidence?" No response. I waited 10 minutes. Then 20. Then finally, 3 dots. Typing. Then gone. No reply. I cursed out loud, smacked the steering wheel, and looked around. Every car that passed suddenly felt like a threat. Every shadow made me question if I was overreacting or not reacting enough. That night, I stayed off-grid. Slept in my car. Didn't turn on any location settings. Didn't log into any accounts. I shut off my main phone and only powered the burner for 5-minute windows. Still nothing from the woman Delaney's father told me to contact. Nothing from Marrow either. Just silence. The next morning, I risked checking my main phone. No new messages from Delaney. No missed calls. That's when I knew something had changed. Delaney didn't go quiet. Not unless she was planning something. I logged into my email from a private browser at a truck stop. That was the mistake. 3 minutes later, a new email hit my inbox. No subject line. No body. Just an attachment. I shouldn't have opened it. But I did. It was a video. Grainy. Black and white. Surveillance style. A parking lot at night. 2 figures. One of them was Delaney. The other was me. Or at least it looked like me. I was leaning against our old car, arms folded, clearly arguing with her. Then she shoved me. Hard. I stumbled, hit the pavement. She stepped back, looked around, then got in the car and drove off. Except that never happened. I never wore those clothes. I never had that conversation. That night never existed. I rewound it. Watched it again. Frame by frame. Whoever that was, it wasn't me. But it was something else. It was a setup. Proof. Fabricated, edited, maybe even AI generated. That could be used for one purpose. To rewrite the story. If she couldn't find me, she'd make sure people believed something else. That I was abusive. That I snapped. That she was the one who had to disappear for her own safety. She didn't want me back. She wanted a version of the truth that made her the victim. And now she was building it. I didn't panic. Not this time. I watched the fake video twice more, memorized every detail, the shoes, the lighting, the timestamp. Even the license plate that had one wrong digit. It was rushed. Sloppy. A threat, yes, but also a sign she was spiraling. And spiraling people make mistakes. I didn't run. I planned. The moment I realized she was trying to erase me, I knew I had to become undeniable. Not just a name she couldn't scrub out, but proof that I existed, that I was clear-headed, calm, and a victim of something far bigger than betrayal. I reached out to Marrow again. No response. I called the woman Delaney's father had warned me about. Still silent. But then, just when I was about to give up, I got a text from an unknown number. She tried to ruin my life too. You're not alone. I have what you need. It was the friend, the one who vanished after seeing too much. We met at a public library, just before closing. She brought a flash drive, old screenshots, and even an audio recording. Proof of Delaney talking about rehearsing stories and always having a backup version of events ready. It was chilling, but it was enough. Enough to go to a lawyer. Enough to preemptively file for separation, cite malicious intent, and protect myself before she could paint a false narrative. I even had the call traced, the one where she sent the video. It led to a friend of hers, a former co-worker with a history of digital manipulation. The police were already familiar with him. I didn't even have to press charges. I just let the system see what it needed. And then, I disappeared again. This time, not out of fear. Out of peace. I moved to a new state. Changed my number. New job. Smaller place. Nothing fancy, but quiet. Safe. 3 weeks later, I got a letter forwarded from my old address. No return name. Just one sentence, written in rushed handwriting. I never thought you'd actually leave me. I folded it, put it in a drawer, and never opened it again. She lost the narrative. She lost the audience. And she lost the man who, for too long, let himself believe her lies were love. As for me, I wake up before sunrise now. I make coffee the way I like it. I talk to my neighbor's dog like he's a roommate. I take long walks without checking my phone. I laugh more. Cry less. I'm still healing, but I'm doing it on my own terms. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it. Leaving, walking away, vanishing like that. And I tell them the truth. I didn't vanish. I finally showed up.